Okay, I have a couple of thoughts about the project plan, but first let me say something about the mind maps. I think that went really well, at least from my perspective. I really enjoyed all of your mind maps, um, and hope you had a good time creating them if you haven't done anything like that before. I do them by hand. I have a hand notebook that I do them in. I have a bunch of colored pens and stuff, and I use various pieces of software. I use something called iThoughts on my iPad, and I use iMindMap, an extremely overpriced program on my PC. Um, but let me I'll give you one bit of advice if you're interested in creating them. In my view, a few of you did maps that could have been spread out a little bit more. Maps work best when they're almost a free association, like the thing you see in movies where a psychiatrist says a word and then you say the next word that comes to mind. And really, it really is something like if you have a concept and then you branch out from it as many ways as you can, and then you take each of those and you branch out from them as many ways as you can. Um, my view is mind maps work best in that free associational way and can work best if you, instead of um, writing a lot of stuff in a particular node, just write a word or two and then branch off from that. That sort of keeps you writing, keeps you associating. It may be less translatable to me, really, than one where you try and fill in all of the information there, but it might get you farther in terms of creating concrete ideas than it would if you just try to fill in all of the details about any particular branch. Instead of filling in those details, you branch out through those details. So I try and restrict my branches to one or two words and get to as many layers as possible, as many different levels of branching, so as to create this kind of nested hierarchy of branches. And a mind map can get very, very big over time. You can see a lot of sample mind maps online at various places. But a lot of them, even the best ones, are personal to the person who wrote them because they trace the kinds of associations that person makes. Okay, now on to the project plan. The key thing about the project plan, as I said in the assignment, is that it needs to be feasible, it needs to be specific, it needs to have specific criteria for when it's done. When I work with scientists on their proposals, there's something in the scientific proposal called a specific aims. And the specific aims section is usually literally just a few sentences. And each aim might be a sentence. Specific aim 1, specific aim 2, specific aim 3. And those aims are the heart of the project plan. Everything about the rest of the project plan is about meeting those specific aims, when you're going to do that, and how you're going to know that that's done. And so sometimes when I work with scientists on their proposals, their specific aims might be something like to study this interaction or something. And you don't want to do that. You want instead to have specific aims that say, I'm going to find out if this protein interacts with this receptor by means of this technology, and because studying an interaction or studying a relationship can be kind of an endless process. So you need to have a definite endpoint, and I can't recall if in an earlier podcast I've said something about that or not, because I've been teaching some about proposal writing to my students in Singapore as well. So apologies if this is redundant. But that's a key thing. When you're doing a proposal, you want to have an endpoint. If you can have a goal with a date and a sense of what it is to realize that goal, then the project is not going to be funded, because otherwise it's open-ended. You can't have it open-ended. You have to have closure defined really specifically. Everything else you build back from that. And I think that's how you create your timeline. That's how you create your steps. And the project plan in most proposals is fairly structured. That is to say, it says when you're going to do things, and the steps might be in headings. It tends not to be just a set of paragraphs, but literally step 1, step 2, step 3. It's more like an outline fleshed out in paragraphs, but not simply plan and then a bunch of paragraphs. Use headings, and this will get in more detail as we revise, but even in the draft, you should think about using headings as a way to guide the plan. Set everything up in terms of the objectives, create the headings to match those objectives, create the timeline to match those objectives. Everything serves the objectives. Okay? All right, thanks, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.